enlightenment in the future. Again, this is rooted in the idea that the existing truths that people say we should follow, Islam, Christianity, whatever, these aren't good enough. They're not really true. There's some other truth out there that we're going to move towards. We're going to move towards it because we're free to speak, we're free to disagree, and eventually the free market will lead us towards this truth. So, when we think about this kind of modern intolerant tolerance, what I was describing on this Egyptian television show, what I was describing about the debates that we often get in, or that I often get in, where does it come from? Well, these kind of ethereal evocations of loving one another and loving your fellow man, these are the vestiges of a desacralized Christian morality. It's sort of groped for as one of the few resonating social chords in our society. These are the kind of leftovers of Christian values once the religion was ripped out and the transcendental tradition of Christianity and belief in the revealed text is sort of pushed aside. You have just these sort of echoes of love and sort of almost empty. Reminds me of when I go to weddings and I hear non-Muslim weddings, you hear people take a quote of the Bible, for example, from Paul, some of Paul's letters, and he's talking about love. And they take this and they read it at the wedding, and it's supposed to talk about how these two people love each other. But that's not what love Paul's talking about, right? For him, he's the love of God, love of Jesus. This is like a completely different kind of love. Love between this world and the transcendental world, the world of the divine. And it's sort of made into this very, almost, I don't mean to be dismissive of romantic love, but sort of cheapened love in this world. And it's kind of when we talk about loving your fellow man, it's this sort of vestigial Christian morality. The demand that religious people immediately cease and desist from judging others as either unfaithful or unbelievers, or disapproving of certain lifestyles. These demands are rooted in a political ideology that considers the mutual recognition of all citizens' self-fulfillment to be paramount. So when I talk about Rousseau's political philosophy, this is this idea that you can't believe that someone else's belief is wrong. You have to respect their belief. It has to be true. You have to approve of their lifestyle. Because they're fulfilling themselves, and you have to acknowledge their fulfillment. You have to assist in their fulfillment. I think this comes from this phenomenon we see in the United States and other Western countries today, and in Egypt. It's, I think, rooted in political philosophy like Rousseau's. Finally, the hostility, and I know people in the United States often talk about war on Christianity, and I wonder what the heck are they talking about? It doesn't seem like there's a war on Christianity. It's not at all. But this idea that there's a war on religion in the United States, you can see where this is coming from. Because I as a religious person, often I'm always getting bashed over the head for daring to believe that someone else's belief is wrong, or that somebody else's lifestyle is wrong. They say you're being judgmental, you're being intolerant. Insert whatever word you want to insert about what I'm being, and that's what I am. Right? This hostility, I think, comes from, again, what I said before, the free market of ideas. It's like, haven't you gotten with the program? Your religion is obsolete. Your religious belief, you're clinging to some scripture from the ancient Middle East. That's silly. This is obsolete. We moved on beyond that. Get with the program. You're sort of treated with the hostility of a person who's begging on the street who hasn't gotten a job. Get with the program, buddy. Get a job. Don't drag the rest of us down. There's almost this notion that ideas have moved ahead, and if you're not going to move ahead with us, then how are we all going to move into this progressive future where eventually we'll all find the truth? This reality poses two problems for us, and by us I mean not just Muslims. I mean people who follow transcendent religious traditions in general. One, it rejects categorically the very transcendental morality and claims about salvation made by most religions. You can't claim that, for example, homosexuality is immoral or wrong. Because you're denying someone else their fulfillment. And in the free market of ideas, at least in urban America, that opinion is no longer accepted. That opinion has been cast out. The free market has moved ideas and moved on, so you better get with the program. It denies our claims about salvation. If you believe that you have to believe a certain thing in order to be saved, in order to please God, in order to attain happiness in the afterlife, that goes against the idea that everybody belief is legitimate. The second problem is that this modern idiom of intolerant tolerance is rooted in the very Christian tradition that it claims to have moved beyond. So when someone tells me you have to love your fellow man, why? Where does this idea of love come from? What does that mean? I don't even understand. Why do I have to love somebody? Well, I don't know. We just have to love somebody. We have to love each other. Like the Birds song and all these songs from the 60s and things like that. The Beatles song. What is this? This isn't morality. This is a few rock songs and things like that in a movie you saw. Where does this come from? Again, it's this vestigial leftover of what originally was a very powerful language of morality and belief in Christianity. Okay, so now I've been very critical of what I think is this modern intolerant tolerance. What's the alternative? What's the alternative? I think, actually, the Islamic alternative and the American alternative are very similar. Because real liberalism, not this intolerant liberalism, the liberalism that says you have to believe what everyone else believes is correct, says that people can live together in a society despite the fact they have completely different faiths. Because they live together based on a contract, a social contract, which is that, I won't hurt somebody else, I'm going to respect their property, they're going to respect my property, we're going to get together, we're going to have established systems of making decisions, of leadership, and in this way we can all retain our original beliefs and actually still live in an organized polity where people's property and their rights are respected. It's very simple. Very simple, it's very American. It's also very Islamic. This is what I find, the Islamic tradition is absolutely fascinating. It's incredibly practical, but also totally committed to people's freedom of conscience. Totally committed to people's freedom of conscience. In Islamic law, there's a very clear distinction between, when we talk about iman, or faith, there's an iman al-shar'i, and there's an iman al-fitri. In one sense, your iman is your religious identity. I'm Muslim, I'm Christian, I'm Jewish, I'm Zoroastrian. Okay, these are categories you fit into. When we talk about Islamic law, or the state, or the laws of the society, these are categories that have legal consequences. So if you're Muslim, you can marry a Muslim man can marry a Muslim woman. He can, when he dies, his Muslim children will inherit his wealth. He can inherit from his Muslim parents. And when he dies, he's buried in a Muslim graveyard. He can go to Hajj, he can enter Mecca, right? These are things that Muslims can do, non-Muslims can't do. By the way, at no point have we actually talked about what I actually believe, what this Muslim actually believes. For all we know, that Muslim is an atheist. For all we know, that Muslim is going to roast in hell for all eternity because he's a terrible person and doesn't believe in God at all.